So, one of the banes of the lower human mind is this incessant need for that part of our mind or this part of our humanity to be in almost constant judgment or criticism. I mean, it's if you pay any attention in your own head, most people will report this to me. I know this is my experience. It's pretty constant. Silly little things like, what, oh, really? Why would that person wear that? Or, whatever. It just goes on and on and on, not only for others, but for our own selves. When we look in the mirror, when we look at anything we've done, there's just this constant criticism. And it's judgmental. And so one of my spiritual teachers years ago taught me that what I'm going to tell you, which is when you note, and so this requires you to be attentive to yourself and to pay, to be in like a present moment awareness with yourself so that you can notice this when it comes up. It's called the observation mode in some spiritual traditions and some meditation practices where we're the observer, right? So we're observing our lower mind just in constant judgment. And it is a little intense in the beginning, but when you play with this over time, it just becomes more kind of second nature, and it's easier and easier to access and just take care of it in an instant. And the take care of it part is when you notice yourself, when you observe yourself in judgment, just don't judge yourself for judging, but just notice it and put a kind of just stop it in its tracks where it's at, and then give it to light. Like I give it to a violet color light for transmutation. And transmutation just means the changing of the energy. So I want the judgment to be transmuted into a higher, more serving energy, and then gifted back to me. Or, I can breathe it back in, or it can flow back into me. And that it's and then the last part is so you notice first, then you offer it to light second, and then third, look at something beautiful. And it could be a tree, it could be a flower, it could be a color in the room you might be sitting in. It doesn't really matter what you look at, but this is a pattern interrupt for our brain tracks. So when we do this enough, when we do those three things, observe or notice the judgment, offer it to the light to be transmuted or transformed or healed, and then we look at something beautiful, it changes the brain track of judgment. It still will hang out there, but the less that it gets traveled into its full completion, like the full-on judgment and spinning about it, and some of them are worse than others, of course, then it literally rewires our brain. And so that's the one of the great things about doing a simple practice like this. So play with that, as I am fond of saying. And even if you take judgment down by 10% initially, and then maybe 20%, as you keep playing with this, the thing is we have to be directive with our mind. We have to be directive about these things, otherwise they run us. And so the idea is to be a good director. This is what it means to be a good energy manager, to be a good director, and then you have more access to the parts of yourself that are more whole and more heart-based and more connected to the system in us that is about healing. And when we're in judgment, when we're in that small mind a lot, then we actually literally lock out healing because our energy is tending judgment or criticism. And that could go on for an entire lifetime, and it's pretty incessant. So just, backing that off now and getting some of those monkeys off your back is a really good use of your awareness and your consciousness and your capacity to be a good director. Okay, so let me know how that goes, especially if you've had like a regular judgment that you just are noticing that you've had for a long time, or maybe you already know that you've had it for a long time and it just keeps kind of rotely playing over and over. It's like an autopilot thing. And if you've been able to shift that, I'd love to hear about it. Okay, thanks a lot. Lori Morse.